Hello, welcome to All Things Considered with me, Mary Stallard.
O God, your hand has spread the sky, and all its shining hosts on high, and painted...
About 7 years ago, this little voice started coming up in my head, saying, "What about religious life?" And I'd push it away and think, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. That's not real. People don't do that anymore. And it stayed there. And I started to see things related to nuns everywhere. And eventually I thought, well, I have to look into this.
I think the only thing I hope for is to be faithful to what God calls me and to be faithful in the context of community.
Today we're just outside Monmouth at Tymawr Convent, Wales's only enclosed Anglican monastic community for women. Set above the beautiful Wye Valley in an area of outstanding natural beauty, the community, the Society of the Sacred Cross, has had a home here for almost 100 years. Its written history describes the community's existence here as a continuous miracle. We're here learning more about these women who give their lives to prayer and silence, keen to know more about what's drawn them to this place and their unique way of living.
This community is our home.
Mother Catherine leads this community of 8, 5 sisters and 3 novices.
Like every home, we have all the ordinary tasks to perform, whether it be washing, cleaning, cooking, alongside the activities of the chapel, the activities of worship and of meditation and adoration. But the two aren't divorced from each other, they are integrated. So as you pick your berries in the garden, you might as well be saying your rosary. Or if you're sitting in chapel, your heart can be open to the creation around you or the struggles of the world.
The angel of the Lord brought tidings to Mary, and she conceived by the Holy Spirit. Hail, Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God.
This is a 24/7 existence, a day punctuated by services, 5 in all, from around 7 in the morning until last thing with Compline, and up to 2 hours each of private prayer every day.
The Lord is with you.
Each sister has a story to tell about their calling to this contemplative life. Sister Victoria is an ordained priest and a novice at the convent. Before that, she worked as a lawyer and charity worker, but the call of the contemplative life goes back even further.
I remember going to school on the bus in London and seeing a very high wall around something, and I said, "What's going on in there?" and was told, "Oh, well, that's a convent," and a voice sort of going off in my head saying, "Could you do that?" And my 15-year-old self saying, "No, absolutely not." But it started something that's never gone away.
I've been married, I've got daughters.
Sister Elizabeth has been at Tymawr since 2008. Her sense of calling came from an enclosed community of a different kind.
I'm a trained prison officer and a trained nurse. We called ourselves Screwed Up Florence Nightingales because I'm a screw and a nurse. And I was on night duty and I'd injured my foot. So I wanted to be as quiet as possible. You could work all night cleaning treatment rooms and what have you, but I did as little as possible. I took my paints in and I'd been a long-term lay member of a community, and I asked them for a reference, for Bible reference to use for later, and I used that, and I had 4 nights off before, then a week on duty, and then a week off duty, so I had 2.5 weeks, and I painted a picture and I just knew I was going into community. I didn't know which one, but I knew I was going into community, which was awkward because I couldn't go into community for some years. I'd got teenage girls.
O God, make speed to save us. O Lord, make haste to help
A nun's dress code will be familiar to many of us, and it's the same for the sisters here at Tymawr. Their habit is a grey dress, and the veil a symbol of their enclosure and a crucifix. There's a long training or formation process, from postulant to novice for 2 years, and then the taking of first vows.
Instead of a leather belt, we're given a girdle, which is a rope around our waist.
Sister Rosalind.
And it has 3 knots in the rope, which symbolise the 3 vows that we make to live our lives according to vows of poverty, chastity and obedience. And the other thing, when we make our vows, is that we wear what we call a scapular, which is like a long black narrow tabard and represents our service, really. It's rather like an apron.
Cara, you describe yourself as a novice sister, so you're fairly early on in this process?
Yes, I was clothed back in May. That was when I became a novice. Before then, as a postulant, we wear secular clothes, our own clothes. And in May, I had my clothing ceremony and received the habit. But as Sister Rosalind has said, without the scapular veil, girdle.
And how does the process sound? Is it something that sounds exciting, or does it sound daunting at this stage?
I think the way to stay reasonably grounded is not to think too far ahead, but to focus on being a novice and not think ahead and pretend that I'm in life vows or something, but to be truly open to what God and the community and God through the community are offering to me as a novice.
And as a young member of the community, what do your friends and family make of this testing, this trying of a life that is maybe so different from what many people do?
People have a lot of questions. And because my family and friends are mostly in Australia, where I came from, they can't come and stick their nose in the convent and nose around so much.
Tymawr celebrates its centenary in 2 years, and Sister Gillian Mary has served at the convent for nearly half that time, some of it as the Reverend Mother. She's also compiled a book of poetry, Tides of the Spirit.
May the Father bless you in all your being, the Son be known in the breaking of bread, the Spirit draw you in eternal love. May the most Holy Trinity shield you in joy, rest you in weariness, comfort you in suffering, refresh you with peace. May we be bound ever closer in the heart of Christ, our Alpha and Omega.
We are a praying community, so our intercessions start there.
The heart of the convent is its beautiful chapel. Sister Elizabeth is showing me round. And there's a lovely waft of incense as you come in. This is the setting for the daily round of services, where singing plays an important part. Sister Elizabeth has been responsible for encouraging the use of plain chant. So this is the music for this evening.
Yes. For His mercy endures forever. Followed by a psalm.
Lord, remember David and all the hardships he endured. How he swore an oath to the Lord and vowed a vow to the mighty one of Jacob.
Another leading musical light is Sister Janet.
We sing at each of the services, but we don't sing all of the service. The only service or office during the day that has more singing is evening prayer, when we sing the psalms as well as the hymn.
Until
the singing of the Psalms helps us to focus on the words more. And we're, of course, being enclosed, we're lucky to have been able to continue singing all the way through this last 2 years.
My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God my Saviour.
At evening prayer, we always sing the Magnificat, and that is one of my real joys.
Sister Rosalind.
That's the Song of Mary. My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. I'm one of those people who loves to sing, maybe not always too tunefully, but it's my love song to God.
But living under one roof can mean tensions arise. Novice Sister Victoria, Sister Elizabeth, and another novice, Sister Joanna.
I'd like to say, as in any family, you have to talk, and if you can't talk, you have to find a way to keep living. It's very easy for me to just sort of clam up and sulk, and I think living so closely together, one has to find a way to open up and apologise, or say, I'm finding this difficult and I can't talk about it at the moment. And more often than not, the other person says, oh, me too. But it can be very hard.
And the difficult thing about living in community is living in community. Two sisters.
It's the challenge and the blessing all at once. When you fall out with someone, or when they're really winding you up, you don't get away from it. The person who annoyed you at lunchtime might be sleeping in a bedroom 2 or 3 doors down from you, or might be sitting opposite you in choir. Sometimes I've looked across chapel at someone I absolutely love and I'm so inspired by, and sometimes I've looked across and seen someone who's really driving me up the wall, and either way you have to say, how am I going to pray for this person? How am I going to be a loving sister to them? Sometimes that is harder than others, but I am so endlessly thankful to have that challenge put into my life.
Elizabeth taught me that very often what I dislike in other people is myself. And that's a huge life journey for me to learn, and it's been so helpful.
And communities traditionally are facing each other in chapel. You're looking at your mirror. I face these two.
The eyes of all wait upon you, O Lord.
And you give them their food in due season.
You open wide your hand.
It's lunchtime, held in silence.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the earth. Glory to you, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Amen.
We eat a great deal out of our garden, so the menu is dependent on the harvest.
Novice Sister Cara.
Today, I think what would come in was courgette, squash and cabbage. And then it's all beautifully prepared for us by whoever's on the schedule to cook. We had risotto today and roasted vegetables, and we eat in silence, which is, I find, a really important way of being focused on what it is that we are receiving and from whom it is that we are receiving it. From where I sit in the refectory, I can see out into the veg garden, and I can see the fruit of the blessings of God of creation and the work of the gardeners and the cooks on my plate and out the window. And to be in silence is to remain alert and attentive and receptive to that. So I find it a very great blessing.
Through the gate. This is Back Drive. Can you imagine they used to bring cows along here, so it was very different looking. It's very green and lush at the moment, but I've seen photos of it kind of beaten down dirt with a sister leading a cow up to its pasture.
And look at all the plums, my goodness.
Yeah.
The garden, laden with its produce, is a place of which the sisters are very proud. Sister Joanna is responsible for its nurture, along with Vijay, their full-time gardener.
Tell us something of the range here. Well, we've basically got a bit of everything that grows in this country, pretty much the standard stuff. So we've got beans and carrots and beetroot. We've got loads of cabbages, loads of different kinds of cabbages, loads of what else we got? Onions. We grow our own comfrey that we use for our own composting and feed. Got loads of cucumbers.
What are you doing today?
Well, occupying my son and and we're just harvesting Joanna's favourite cucamelons.
Oh wow, they're tiny.
So
Gosh.
pop one in your mouth.
So what do you do with these?
Well,
Just put them in salads.
Little
really.
fruits. So they're like
yeah, it should taste a little like a kind of limey cucumber. It's a Mexican, and it was recommended to me last year, so it's a bit of an acquired taste.
It's the size of a peanut.
Yeah, if you like cucumber, you'll like it.
Yeah, it's just like cucumber.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, how gorgeous! And do you garden in a kind of environmentally sustainable way
so
here?
it's all done on the people that built this garden really, they did it all on a no-dig system, and then you just plant into the top of it. So we don't do any of the digging the whole place over once a year like they used to in the old days.
It's an unusual job, isn't it? Gardening in a convent, in a religious place. Does that make a difference to you?
No, not really. I mean, I lived on narrowboats for years, so and I wasn't particularly looking for a job, but this one just sounded like a really interesting adventure, really. So we're learning, aren't we, Joanna?
We are, and there's so much I think you have to teach me. I've learnt a bit about the vegetable garden in the last 3 years, but there's more than just vegetables and orchards here. We have woodland, wildflower meadows, wetland, a lot of different habitats. Those really are your area of expertise, so I'm very much looking forward to learning about the tree work.
Yeah, I mean, we planted, what did we plant, 1,500 trees nearly?
1,500 trees.
Yeah,
Wow.
this season.
So there's so much here that's about making connection between humans and the environment and being part of a wider creation. This must feed into the prayer and thinking and spirituality of the community.
I think so. For me, prayer is quite often something that happens very physically. Working with my hands, I've learnt more about prayer than I might have ever learnt otherwise. The real wonder for me was planting seeds the first time. If you plant a bean seed, when it germinates, it pushes up the earth kind of on its shoulders as it's bent over, and it lifts itself up like an old man stretching. It's very much like the statues of Atlas with the world on its back. And you come in every day, even a few hours apart, and it'll be a little different, and it'll have pushed up a little more earth and stretched itself out. It's watching a miracle happen in front of you, and it's incredible. Working in this garden has taught me so much about God and people and myself. It's been an incredible teacher.
Community. We are like bulbs lifted in the autumn for division. Come, gardener spirit, dig deep into our soil, lift matted clumps of bulbs, pulled strongly to free entangled roots, enrich your earth with leaf mould, plant each of us again with space to grow. We are like bulbs lifted in the autumn, replanted for spring.
I love the eye for detail. I was told a story about Sister Gillian. A sister from another community came and was looking for instruction, how to be, what the rules were. Sister Gillian was mother at the time, and so finally the mother summoned this sister to come and see her, and this sister comes expecting to be told, this is what you do and this is what you don't do. And Sister Gillian said, come and look at buzzards with me. So the sister never found out what the rules were, but she did see the buzzards. That to me is the gift of her love, that she spots these little details and shows you the world through that. I mean, it's the spirit that cares about every single detail. That's the God Sister Gillian shows me in her poetry, I think.
Sister Gillian, one of the fruits of your ministry and work here has been your poems. Can you tell me a little bit about the process of writing the poems and the kind of areas you're exploring in writing about life and God and spirituality?
they come out of our living together and worshipping together, being together.
There seems to be a great connection with creation. That seems to be something that's really important to you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's partly because of the place that we live in, which is beautiful. We have many acres of land, which include a pond and trees and gardens, fruit trees. And so creation is very present to us. It is around us all the time and speaks to us.
Our relationship with creation and the rest of creation is a burning issue in our world today.
Mother Catherine believes that rather than being cut off from the world, Tymawr has much to offer.
We have a focus, a life in God. We have silence, which is so often missing in daily life. And we have space and time to offer young people. I think that is my dream, is that we could be a refuge for young adults in our world today. Not so they stay here and become nuns, nice as that might be, but that they take from a life that is ordered, set apart, hopeful, engaged, committed to the concrete materiality of the earth. They take back that relationship with God into their daily lives.
The place of the community in the outside world is also in the minds of other sisters too.
I wouldn't begin to justify the life, but sometimes I was thinking, we're up a little Welsh hillside and it's beautiful and all that, but actually I feel connected to the whole world. We embrace the whole world. I don't know what other people feel, but that's what I feel. And in the intercessions, and I will try and bring that in, we do our bit towards the climate or whatever.
And for me, coming from a world which was saturated by social media and huge amounts of information, it seems that we're in a world which is thirsty for peace, for slowness, for time spent and time shared with each other, and for gentleness. So I believe and I hope that something of what we live can be a gift to the world. How actually that is done isn't so tangible, and it requires leaning into faith that God has brought us here for a reason, and if God has a reason for it, then we simply have to go with that.
I think it's always struck me that for over 2,000 years God has called men and women to a life of prayer, to step aside like Moses sees the burning bush. But it is hard. Someone I was talking to on the phone a while ago said to me, "But what is your output?" And I don't have an output. I don't produce a widget, and none of us can produce something concrete.
A visitor to the community a few months back asked me about our individual roles, and wasn't it brilliant that everyone has a job and something they can be kind of valued by? And actually, I feel that part of our gift is that although we do all have work and we do all contribute to the life here, your value is not tied to the work you do. It's not tied to the skill you bring. And people come to the community with doctorates and with no qualifications and huge amounts of work experience and none. What matters is that you are here and you are present and you are loving and you are praying. And of course that matters hugely. Sisters live their entire lives, may end their lives perhaps ill, perhaps not able to do anything other than be present, and they are every bit as valuable and every bit as important as the person who can work 8 hours a day in the kitchen or the garden. That, I believe, is a great gift to a world which wants to trap us all into an economy to say always, what's your productivity? That doesn't matter here. At least I hope it doesn't.
Where is it that we're heading to?
We're heading down to the Campo Santo, which is our graveyard. It's where all the sisters who went before us are still with us.
The Campo Santo, or Holy Field, a fenced-off area. There are no headstones, but as Mother Catherine explains, it's a sacred place.
And in the Campo Santo we have a large sycamore tree on which we have a bronze figure of Christ, and so we call this our living cross, and it mirrors the cross we have in our chapel on the end wall behind the main altar. We come to pray individually. People will come and sit, and many of our guests actually come and sit. There's something about sitting and facing into death to know the joy of life, and how Christ has overcome the sorrow and sadness of death by promising us and enacting, enabling, being this new life for us and in us.
Seems like an extraordinary place of life. It seems so green.
And in the springtime, covered in the yellows and blues of spring, we see new life come literally before our eyes. But the promise of life eternal.
May I ever remain here, where I can feel the breezes of Calvary, in this place which is everywhere, for everywhere finds its home in Christ, beneath that fruitful tree where all creation moves, his prayer begins to sing in my heart.
My thanks to Mother Catherine and all the community here at Tymawr for their welcome. You can listen again to this programme on BBC Sounds. All Things Considered is back again this time next week. Meanwhile, from me, Mary Stallard, goodbye.